Shoot the headset.
Well, I explained this to Tucker, but I'll explain it to you again, or to you as well. This is, in fact, one of my kids' cheap gaming headsets. And I know it's cheap because we're the ones who bought it for them. So we didn't exactly spend a lot of money. It may or may not have come from Five Below, but it's what I got. And we are now live on YouTube, boys. So people are watching, and welcome to a Sunday afternoon on the Weekenders.
What's up?
Thanks for having me.
Hey, man, this was a great idea by you guys. I appreciate you including me. How you guys been holding up?
Well, I can tell you that this room, which you can actually see the dog in the background, this is basically the dog's room. And when I moved to
You're in the dog's room now.
Well,
okay.
It's because that thing behind me is the most destructive creature ever. And it has dug a hole in our family room carpet. It has eaten like built-in bookcases. So this was a room with less than totally attractive wood paneling and tile floors. It's a sun porch, basically. And so we stuck her in here because this was the room in which she could cause the least amount of damage. But now she and I share it. And she just had a bath. So it smells heavily of wet dog in here right now.
Sure. Very nice.
This is the kind of stuff I've been up to.
Hey, and Tucker, are you in the marsh right now? It looks
yeah,
nice.
I'm in the marsh. Yep.
Very
Marsh
cool.
Vegas, baby. You know it.
Very cool, man. It looks good out there.
Yeah,
it looks literally like you are in a marsh, though. Is that wetlands behind you, or what do we have behind you?
I mean, that's pretty much why they call it Marshfield. It's kind of wetlands and stuff. Usually around 6 o'clock, I have a family of deer out back here. But who knows? Maybe they'll get a cameo out of them soon. But yeah, it's a nice day, 60 degrees. So why the hell not?
Very cool. Very cool. Well, this is my apartment here in Quincy. I'm in a new section of Marina Bay, so I'm here for just a few more months. But this is I'm coming live from my apartment here in Quincy, boys. So it's
You're
good.
South Shore guys now, right?
Yeah. I like the South Shore, man. I was always on the over by the stadium, but I kind of like being in the South Shore, man. It's a nice area.
Yeah.
Would we see a beautiful view if you open your blinds behind you?
Yeah. I got the ocean kind of right over here. I'll show you, see if you can see it. Yeah, let's see. Let's tilt it this way.
Yeah.
We're going to get a home tour from Ted Johnson.
The ocean right there.
I just see blinding white lights.
Yeah, it's a little blinding, but we'll take your word for it that there's some ocean.
I believe you,
Ted.
Trust me, there's ocean out there, man.
I like what's his name there, Tucker Silva, stuck in the woods. If you could, there you go. That's the backyard with woods. There's a bike path. You can see little people going by in their bikes. So
see that, man.
That's what we got. We also have the birds back here. So this is the animals room and me. So it kind of fits. I have to ask you, Ted Johnson, because I know that, you and I discussed many times on the radio your very intense workout regimen. The gym's got to be closed. What are you doing?
Okay, Marshall.
Why aren't you asking me that question? I don't get it.
I don't know. It just didn't feel quite right.
It's been the biggest challenge, I would say, of all the things that have gone on for me personally. Like that, there's obviously people that have a lot of serious issues going on right now that have been personally impacted by what's going on. But for me, the biggest challenge was trying to find a place to, work out. A lot of people go, well, what's the big deal about working out? Well, for me, it's a key part of what keeps me out of trouble. And it's what, gives me, I think a lot of my just kind of, my energy and what I thrive on. So I've kind of lucked out to some degree. I have a wellness center that I go to by myself. I disinfect it when I'm done. It's only me in this place, and it has some dumbbells up to about 100 pounds. It has TRX belts. It has bands and some things to do pull-ups. So I have to be very creative. So I think a lot of people in this time that that are meatheads like me, that are typically going to your typical gym, have to find ways to be creative. So I have this wellness center with dumbbells. And the owner has been very, very nice to allow me to go work out there on my own. And so I've been going there every day for about an hour. I've been working out, running out and outside, working my kids out. My kids are both young in high school and a sophomore and freshman. And so I take them to fields, and it's been very difficult to find some of these high schools to allow people into their football fields. They've been closing them off. They've big signs and big, there's they're not allowing people to congregate at these high schools at fields, which has been a little bit tough because, there's not a lot of places to go work out. So that's been a bit of a challenge finding places to work out my kids. But I've found a place that I can do just enough to kind of keep me in shape so that I'm happy. But you're right, Marshall, that's been the biggest challenge. My gym that I typically go to in Braintree had to shut down obviously a long time ago. And so it's been hard, but I thankfully have a place that I can go to on my own and work out just enough so that I'm happy and content with what I got there. So that's me there.
I have dealt with the closure of the gyms and the cancellation of all my 5Ks by doing absolutely nothing. That's been my answer because I used to, and of course my workouts bear zero resemblance whatsoever to the ones you did. But one of my kids had swim lessons twice a week. And so I would take him to the Y, and I would use the time that he was swimming to do like a 45-minute workout. And then I would try to work in one other one there sometime in the week. And I had a 5K a month, every one of them set up. So I would at least have that in there. Yesterday, for instance, was supposed to be the big BAA 5K, the one that was related to the marathon, the one that went right through, downtown Boston, right down Boylston Street. It's worthy of note that we would have been running it in snow because it was snowing at the time that the 5K would have happened. So
yesterday
to that degree, it would not have been great to do the 5K, but that marks the second one that we've now missed. Now, I do have this bike path right out here, and I know exactly where I need to run down and then turn around to come back to do a 5K down to it's a Jersey barrier on the bike path. The third Jersey barrier by the Topsfield Fairgrounds. At the end of that is where you turn around and you run back and you get exactly 5K. With that knowledge, I've done it not at all. Not
one time.
Yeah, it's a motivation issue. There's something about, signing up for a race, going to a race, knowing that it's a thing and doing it with the other people and having the big clock at the end. And knowing that I was trying to get under 30 minutes, which I've always acknowledged is a horrible time, but it was my goal and I was within a minute of that. And none of that exists when I go out in my backyard and run 2.5 miles that way or 1.5 back, whatever it is, 2.5 and then 2.5 back. It's 1.5. I can't do math, guys, whatever. It's 3.1 miles, right? So 1.5 and 1.5. That motivation doesn't work. I have started biking more though. And so we are using this bike path to do that. And I believe after the show that comes on after us, when they're done, because I'll be pushing the buttons in the background, my wife and I are planning on a 10-mile bike ride today. So we will get that in. It's something. It's not anywhere close to what I was doing before, but it's a little something.
Okay, hey, I got to ask you a question. Marshall, you last time I saw you, it's been a while. You look great. You had lost a lot of weight. You'd really you changed your diet. I think you're kind of turned up the intensity in your running. Are you? A lot of people are calling it the COVID 15. Have you been able to keep the weight down? Are you still keeping yourself in shape from that end?
No, the weight has stayed. I mean, it kind of fluctuates 4 pounds either way, give or and that's it.
Way.
I've gotten so I'm just under 200. I'm like the highest I've gotten, I think, is 198 since getting below 200, and the lowest I think is 194. So I'm basically in there, which proves, by the way, that I don't think the exercise was ever really a part of the weight loss. It was making me feel better and probably toning up because I got like these flabby arms and stuff where there used to be fat. Now the fat is gone, but there's no muscle to replace it. So the working out was more about that. The weight loss was all the diet. And, that has continued. I've had some moments. The Kowloon is always a rough spot for me. But while we've been here, my wife and daughter have gotten on a healthier food kick. So this morning, my breakfast was like smoked salmon and eggs and avocado on a
Ooh, fancy.
mushroom, on a what are they called? The big mushrooms,
Portobello.
like this. Portobello mushroom. This
Yeah.
was my breakfast,
Nice.
which is not anything that I typically would eat, but they're now feeding me that sort of stuff.
Boy, that's awesome, man. That's good. That's you're changing your habits slowly but surely. With this pandemic, you're gonna change your eating habits. That's good, man.
Have you guys both been getting takeout during this whole thing? Because I haven't yet, mainly because my wife is an anxiety-ridden mess.
Yes.
But I want to get takeout, but it just hasn't happened in our house. But have you guys gotten takeout?
Oh, we have. Yeah, I've gone to the Kowloon a couple times. There's a local pizza place that we've gotten from there. I think that may be it. I think those may be the two places. Nobody else in this house goes anywhere. I'm the designated person who goes places.
Yeah.
I am still going in to work Monday through Friday in Boston. So that's part of, I have to leave the house anyway. So I'm the guy who does that. My wife will come out with me once a week to do the grocery shopping, as much because I think she just needs to get out, as we typically would like grocery shop throughout the week. Every day on the way home, one of us would stop for something, but now we're condensing it all into one day, which, by the way, has highlighted exactly how much money we spend on groceries. We dropped like $450 yesterday for feeding a family of 6 for a week. It was, I liked it better when it was like $50 and $100 a day. Then it didn't feel as bad. But yesterday was a dicey one.
Well, obviously, when you think about it, it's probably offsets how much you're going out to eat to restaurants and takeouts and everything. It's probably you're spending less when you think about it, really, because you're cooking all your own meals for the most part.
Yeah, our food bill and our electricity bill have gone up dramatically.
Oh, the electricity,
everything else has gone because we're doing the online schooling, and so and I go to work for 2 weeks and I work from home 2 weeks. That's how it's working. And so for the 2 weeks that I'm home, I actually have here, you can't tell because you're looking at it I have a 3-screen setup. So I'm using a full 3 screens here. And I have a TV over there because I work for a TV news station. So I need to have them on in the background. I've got 4 kids who are doing online schooling, and my wife, who is also working from home on the other side of the house. So we've got, 6 computers going, in addition to heating the house and everyone being here and TVs being on and lights being on. So the electricity bill has gone way up. I don't think we put gas in my wife's car for like 6 weeks. So I think that is kind of flip sided. It's sitting out there.
Yeah.
It
gas
moves
is under
once
$2 now too. So that's good.
Yeah. It's cheap right now. Hey, to answer your question, Tucker, the only takeout I've been doing is probably Chipotle. Other than that, I do food prep. I kind of make my own food for the week. So I eat really boring. I eat almost the same meals almost every single day. So then like Chipotle, using my app for Chipotle, I've been pretty much staying in for all my meals. Not that much takeout, but I come from the service industry business. My family owned a barbecue restaurant in Houston, Texas for almost 35 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I empathize with that industry. I know a lot of people.
Oh, I know it's tough.
So I can appreciate all the people that go out and help support that industry by doing takeout.
Right.
There's obviously the restaurants have taken a huge hit with this.
Yeah. My father-in-law is the GM at TK O'Malley's in Scituate.
Oh, yeah?
Big sports bar, pub type food, good family meals and everything. And like any other restaurant, they've been struggling, but they've been grinding out takeout. They've received a ton of support from the community. People have been buying a ton of gift cards and everything to the restaurant, which is really great to see. And now I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, they got approved, like all the other restaurants, to sell beer and wine for like literally the same prices as package stores. You can get a nice bottle of wine for like $9-10 there. So they've seen an uptick there. But yeah, I mean, this has been a killer to the restaurant industry.
A lot of towns are actually making I know that Arlington has, Somerville has, and other towns are moving in this direction where they're allowing the restaurants to basically become grocery stores because, they're trying to it's one of these a win for everybody kind of things, because they want fewer people in the grocery stores. And they know that restaurants are still taking deliveries on things, minimum amounts. And so they have fresh milk, fresh meats, fresh produce, fresh
gonna go to
dairy.
waste.
And so this is a lot of the stuff that if you actually go to the grocery store, like yesterday, we couldn't find milk in one of the places, and we're doing 7 gallons of milk a week.
Easy.
And so these are the things that are in demand. We couldn't find chicken breast. And so they're allowing the restaurants in a lot of towns, and I think it's going to pick up momentum, to sell these things directly to the public. It'll help the restaurants. It'll help the people. It'll get some people out of the grocery store. So it's kind of some of these creative ideas that people are coming up with and then pushing through very quickly. One of the, I think, good things maybe that's come out of this.
Yeah. My parents owned that restaurant for 35 years, sold it about 10 months ago. And but they're still doing work with the new people that have owned it, this young couple. And I asked them what they were doing to kind of keep their heads above water. And the only thing they have open is the drive-through, and there's a line to the drive-through the whole day. So if you have a drive-through at your restaurant, TK O'Malley's obviously doesn't have a drive-through.
Yeah, they got curbside situation there.
But having that one aspect of the restaurant is really helping out. So drive-through and curbside pickup are how they're getting it done.
We have a question on the YouTube comments for Ted.
Yo.
What does a Ted Johnson workout look like? That's the question.
Okay. Well, I mean, typically if all the gyms were open, I still do this kind of same type of workout.
I just want to point out that while you're starting to talk about your workout, Tucker appears to be pouring himself a beer.
Yeah.
So,
keep talking about your workout.
Attaboy. So here's what I do. I do 6 days a week. Okay. And I do 2 days a week. I do what they call nice, bud. I do a push day. I do what they call a split week. So on Mondays, I do push exercises. On Tuesdays, I do pull exercises. All right. So like a push day would be bench press, quads. And then I always do 2 core lifts in there. And then on Tuesdays and Fridays, I do what they call pull days. So back and hamstrings. And that's how I do it. So Mondays, push, Tuesday, pull, Thursday, push, Friday, pull. And then Wednesdays and Saturdays, I like to change it up and do like a CrossFit workout or a boxing workout. I started doing these boxing gyms, where it's like, it's a great cardio workout. It's doing the boxing classes with people, which I've had a lot of fun doing.
I did. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's how I've been doing it forever. Is that push, pull, split week with 2 days of CrossFit, Wednesdays and Saturdays. That's what I do without the gyms being open. I still do the same kind of thing. I just have to do it without the bars and the heavy weights. So I'm still. That's how I work out, guys.
You were going to say, Tucker?
No, yeah, I was just going to harp off of the boxing class thing. I did that for my wedding diet when I was in 2017. I took boxing classes, and pretty amazing how quick the weight came off, and it just kicked my ass. Like, really.
It's so hard. It gets the heart, you know what? And it gets you. I mean, just, what too about boxing you don't realize is how much legs you're involved. Like, you're just that contact with the ground, just the shuffle, and have fully engaged the whole time while you're punching. Your legs get exhausted doing it. So it's a great workout. Right now, I mean, I do a lot of stair training outside. I'll go find stairs, and I do a lot of running outside. If I can find a stadium, I've been using some stadium stairs to work out. That's another great thing to do outside too, is training on stairs.
All right, boys, you ready to turn our lonely eyes to sports?
Are we talking socks?
Yeah, listen, they haven't lost a game yet. It's past mid-April, and they have yet to lose a game. So things are going better for them than I would have thought. Also, an NFL draft, I hear, is coming up pretty soon. And that is actually going to happen. It's going to happen like what we're doing right now, which I think will be just from a TV viewing standpoint. Like, I can't wait to see what Bill Belichick's basement looks like.
You think it's going to be awesome to watch? I think it's going to be just as see how they.
I'm fascinated to see if we're actually going to see Bill Belichick in his house. Like if that's a mandatory thing or if that's an option to the coaches. I'm very curious to see that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the NFL has said that they have set everybody up at home. Now,
Right.
I guess that Bill Belichick could, or anybody for that matter, could decide that they don't actually want to do it at home and they're going to go find some other place to
Yeah.
do it.
Less than 10 people, of course. Yeah.
Yes, of course. But I mean, I know that they said that Roger Goodell is set up literally in his basement. So he apparently is, and I would think a guy like Roger Goodell could do it, on his first floor. Maybe he doesn't have a dog room to set it up
in his
in.
dog room, yeah.
He could share it with the wet dog over there in the corner. But I think if nothing else, aside from all of the picking of players, just to see exactly what this looks like from a purely technical standpoint and how screwed up it's going to get. I just feel like it's going to be. And now with the whatever pick, the and frozen picture of like the Minnesota Vikings GM, and we're like, okay, well, they may have picked somebody. We don't know who. We're going to wait for their internet to reset. It's going to be stuff like that, which I think will be fascinating.
What's the one kind of event that went on this past weekend was with the horse game with the NBA.
Oh yeah. God awful.
The technical difficulties they had with that,
So bad.
that off was kind of a cluster. So I'm kind of anticipating. How I can't imagine all 32 teams and whoever, everybody that's on their Zoom conferencing is going to have a great connection the whole time, and you have a certain amount of time between picks. You can just see that it's going to be maybe ripe with problems. But they're supposed to do a run through, I guess, of the draft tomorrow night. So before Thursday when it's official. So it'll be interesting to see if they work in kinks out. But I think there's got to be issues. But I tell you what, I'll be glued in. I'll be watching every single pick. I typically am usually not that fascinated by the draft, but I just think from a viewing standpoint, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah,
people will care more about the 7th round of the draft than they ever have before.
Yeah. No question. So it should be fascinating. A lot of people. I love what was it John Harbaugh of the Ravens said that he was worried about
hackers.
People potentially.
Yeah, of course Harbaugh is. Yeah, this guy's concerned about everything.
He's right. So that I don't. That would be next level. If a coach was able to get somebody to hack in and get information, I don't.
Before we talk about what we think maybe the Patriots or other people will do in the draft, I'm just curious. Ted Johnson, you, I believe, played in the NFL at some point.
I did.
And you were drafted. So what is it like, the NFL draft from that side of things? Obviously, Tucker and I have never been drafted into the NFL, at least as far as I know. So we have no earthly idea. What was draft day like for you?
Yep. It was, Marshall, it was the best day of my life in a lot of ways. Going and getting a scholarship to Colorado was big, but it was because it was such a monumental, accomplishment for me, from where I came from, what my expectations were. But then to go from college to the NFL was huge. And basically you're just kind of gathering information. People are telling you where they think you're going to go. I was anticipated going somewhere at the beginning of the 3rd round to middle of 3rd round. You remember all your experiences talking to these teams at the combine, at pro day. Guys will take you aside and pull you aside, and they'll talk to you. Agents are telling you things. You have all this kind of information leading up to the draft. You're trying to anticipate maybe where you'll go, right? Well, there was maybe potentially a thought that was thrown in my head that, hey, I might go late, potentially in the 1st round to a team in the Cleveland Browns. In 1995, you know who the head coach of the Cleveland Browns was?
Would that be Bill Belichick?
Yeah. And I was at the combine, you guys. And I was at the combine in Indianapolis. And you're in these big, meeting rooms and, kind of hallways going from room to room. And I'll never forget, there was one head coach that grabbed me in the hallway and he said, Ted, I want to talk to you. Can you spare a few minutes to talk to me? And I was like, absolutely, Coach Belichick. I sure can.
No kidding.
Belichick pulls me into a stairwell, okay, in the hotel. So it's just him and I at the base of these stairs in a stairwell, and he starts grilling me on cover 2. So if you're the weak side inside linebacker on cover 2, what do you do here? Well, I read the release of 1. If he releases inside, I take a hook drop. If he releases outside, I take a shallow drop. And he grilled me on cover 2. I'll never forget that. So I remember that conversation, fast forwarding to draft day, and I'm thinking, okay, the Cleveland Browns, I think they had a pick like where the Patriots do now, like in the 20s. And I thought maybe potentially that would be a spot. I didn't say that to anybody. I just remember thinking, okay, if I go high, maybe it's to Cleveland Browns. Well, that came and went. They did take a linebacker, Craig Powell, instead of me that day from Ohio State. But I just remember that experience and thinking that maybe I could go there. The next one, guys, it was 2 days before the draft. I'm in my agent's office in Boulder, Colorado. And I walked in and he represented another guy in that year's draft in 1995. I believe he was the second overall pick in the draft. The second overall pick in 1995's draft was represented by my agent. All right. His name was Tony Baselli. Tony Baselli went to the second overall pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I remember going into my agent's office, seeing my agent talking to Tony a few days before the draft and his wife, and they had paper spread out everywhere, and they're talking about this and talking about that. And I busted my agent's balls because it took him like 45 minutes till he'd finally see me because he had Tony and he was working with. So I understood that. But the point is, I walk into my agent's office and he says, hey, pick up the phone. Somebody wants to talk to you. And again, a few days before the draft, so I pick up the phone. I said, hello. He goes, hey, Ted, this is Charlie Army. I'm good friends with Jack. I'm the director of player personnel for the New England Patriots. If you're there in the second round, we're going to get you. And Charlie Army told me that, and I had never met Charlie, didn't know Charlie. And he says that to me on the phone. I'm like, that sounds real great, Charlie. If I'm there, I'd love to be a New England Patriot. And we hang up the phone, and I don't think much of that conversation until we get to the second round. All right. And I just remember it was a great day. I had all my friends there. We went golfing that morning. I was at my dad's house, and we all were watching the draft from my parents' house in Houston, Texas. Well, the first round was on ESPN. The second round changed to, and they used to do the first, second, and third rounds, I think, on day one back in 1995. The second round was on ESPN2.
The Deuce.
My parents didn't have ESPN2. They had ESPN, but not ESPN2. So all of a sudden, we didn't realize that. Panic set in. We had to go watch the second round from my parents' restaurant down the street where they had ESPN2 on the satellite. And so the Patriots pick is almost coming up. The pick right before the Patriots pick, the 24th pick, the 56th pick overall, the Carolina Panthers selected again, and this I'll never forget who was selected the right before me because
I'm looking at it now.
It was unbelievable. The 56th pick overall, 24th pick in the second round was a punter. A freaking punter.
Todd Sauerbrunn.
Yes. Very good. Todd Sauerbrunn.
Who the hell is that guy?
West Virginia got drafted in the second round to the Carolina Panthers. And so I'll never forget, I told my stepbrother, I said, I need a beer, man. Are you kidding me? I need a beer. But on the clock was the New England Patriots. And I'm not kidding you when I say this. It hit me all of a sudden. I remember that conversation with Charlie Army. And I don't say anything to anybody. So it was like for the next 15 minutes, I'm thinking, okay, is this, Charlie said he was going to get me. If I was here in the second round. And sure enough, with the 57th pick, the New England Patriots select Ted Johnson, linebacker out of Colorado. And guys, I can't tell you, I was a huge fan of Bill Parcells from the Giants days. I loved the cut of his jib. And so I wanted to be Mark Bavaro. That was my biggest. I wanted to be a tight end. I wanted to be Mark Bavaro. Obviously I went a different direction playing linebacker, but I loved those teams. And when they selected me, I mean, I couldn't have been happier. The Patriots weren't really being put on the map until just kind of with Parcells and Drew.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because I mean, obviously you're excited to be in the NFL, right? Doesn't matter the team, you're going to play wherever. But that being said, yeah, Bill Parcells plus, but the Patriots weren't exactly much of a team at that point. And being a guy who who grew up in Texas, was there just some geographic idea that I'm moving to where now? I'm moving up to that little corner of the country?
Well, that's funny. I heard Tom Brady talking about it this past week or last couple of weeks about when he first got drafted. He didn't know where New England was. Well, I knew where New England was. I didn't know where the Patriots played, though, guys. I didn't know Foxborough. I didn't know it was right outside of Boston. I just knew it was up in that northeast corner of the continent. And so I really didn't know much about it. And so let's face it, the Patriots didn't have a lot of primetime games. You didn't see a lot of their games. So it was definitely a team that I was not that familiar with. In the region, I certainly had never visited this part of the country. I'd been to New York City, but never to Massachusetts or Boston. So it was all so new and different for me. But a week later, I was on a plane going to a rookie mini camp. And I mean, honestly, it was about 5 minutes after I got drafted. Bill Parcells was on the phone calling me and congratulating me and telling me to stay humble, that they had a great linebacking core, and that I was just going to be another piece of it. But I hadn't accomplished anything yet. This is just the beginning kind of thing. So Bill had a nice way of kind of welcoming me, but also making sure that I had my head on straight and that I entered this relationship with some humility and was ready to go.
And for those of you who don't know, the 95 draft for the Patriots was pretty legendary. Ty Law, first round pick, Ted Johnson, second round pick. And in the third round, a running back by the name of Curtis Martin.
Hey, and Tucker, man, let's face it, Curtis Martin, if you remember, Curtis Martin, I don't think he did not play his last year at Pitt. I think he was coming off of a knee injury.
Yeah, yep.
And so he wasn't like Curtis Martin in college football was not a big name. You just didn't. And I'll never forget when we went to rookie minicamp and I'm doing one-on-ones with Curtis. After the first day, I call up my dad. I'm like, hey, senior, I don't know about this NFL, man. There's some guy I've never even heard of named Curtis Martin running circles around me out here in one-on-one drills. And little did we know that he was going to be a Hall of Fame caliber type running back. But yes, of the first three draft picks in the 95 draft by the New England Patriots, I was the only one that didn't hold up his end of the bargain. Ty Law went to the Hall of Fame. Curtis Martin's a Hall of Famer. I put in 10 years here, which isn't bad, but that was an unbelievable class. And we had also Dave Wollaba, who was a fourth-round center out of Syracuse, who started. We had Jimmy Hitchcock, who was a fourth-rounder, who eventually became a starter. So that 95 draft brought a lot of production to the Patriots for sure.
Well, maybe not the Hall of Fame, but 10 years in the league and 3 Super Bowl titles. I think, it's okay. Right?
Good.
Okay.
Pretty good.
So let's go ahead and fast forward to now. Any predictions on what the New England Patriots are going to do? I know that all of the conversation, all anybody's talking about is a quarterback for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
I just don't feel like the Patriots are a first-round quarterback kind of drafting team. I mean, obviously they've done it before, but not in a long, long time for obvious reasons. I just don't feel like this is going to be the year that they're going to do that, either to trade up or unless somebody dramatically falls to them to do it with their first-round pick at 23.
Yeah. You know what? This is hard to predict. And Tucker, you jump in, buddy, but it's hard to predict what they're going to do. I don't see them going any quarterback. I really don't. It would be one of those things. I don't think they want to put the pressure. They don't want to bring a guy in that has the pressure of kind of like a first round, pick on their resume. I think there's just, if you're going to get somebody at the 23rd pick, I just feel like, it's kind of one of those deals where you're not really sure, is it a franchise quarterback? The franchise quarterbacks, the guys that they think are going to be franchise quarterbacks are going in the top 10. And so that's just, I don't see that, the Patriots moving up to that spot. My feeling is they're going to go linebacker, edge rusher at that point, maybe offensive line, nothing too sexy. and then wait till maybe in the third round where they have 3 picks. I just don't see them going quarterback. And it is also what you've been hearing a lot of guys say. I think Big Jim Murray's been saying this a lot. You go get a quarterback in that first round, it's basically kind of saying, we didn't have a plan all along. And I just don't think Belichick wants to show his hand like that. If they go out and get a quarterback in that first round, I think it basically says, hey, man, we were just flying by the seat of our pants, and this is us trying to grab at straws at this point. So I don't see them doing that. I see them going either linebacker, D-line, or offensive line with that first overall pick. And my feeling is, at the end of the day, guys, specifically about that position, it's going to be they're going with the one that they already got in the building with Jarrett Stidham. I think Jarrett Stidham, even though they don't know exactly what they got from him, they feel like he's a guy that they can groom into being, maybe the next guy. With Brian Hoyer there as insurance, and Brian Hoyer, he can do it. He's serviceable, but I know it doesn't get people excited, but they feel like they each got a guy that can run the offense if Stidham goes out there and pees down his leg, kind of thing.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Ted, in terms of them taking a quarterback in the first round. I just don't see it. Belichick's always been a guy who will draft a quarterback in the middle rounds or later rounds or anything like that. The one voice in my head that I keep coming back to is the rumors from a couple of years ago, when there were rumors that they were looking to possibly trade up to get Baker Mayfield. I don't know if you guys remember that or not, but I still don't really fully believe that's the case this year. I think at 23, anything they're going to do is draft defense, I think, if one of their targeted guys falls to them, or most likely, I think they're going to trade back just because they don't have a second round pick. And this roster is a dire need of getting younger, getting faster. I know that Tom Curran wrote about that this morning, that speed is a big need on this team. So unless they absolutely love a guy at 23, like when Vince Wilfork fell to them in 03, I totally think that they will just trade out of that and get a second rounder or a third rounder, or maybe a future first for 2021. That would be unbelievable too.
Do you guys know of Bill trading up in the first round to get guys? I mean, I feel like Gerard Mayo, they traded up.
So that Gerard Mayo was it was the previous year they made a trade with the Saints, I believe it is, and they just lucked out with the number 10 pick, I think it was.
Okay.
Because the Saints kind of sucked that year, so they lucked out with that.
Oh, okay. So you didn't trade up to get it that year. They got it from a previous year.
Yeah, and then the other times I remember is Richard Seymour trade where they ended up with 14 from the Raiders, but that was before a season, so they lucked out there. Okay. But then they traded up to get Chandler Jones. I forget what year that was, but they traded up to get Chandler Jones around 13, 15, 16, something like that. Okay. And in the first round, they walked through with Chandler Jones and Dante Hightower in that same draft. So that's the only instance I can remember on draft day where they traded up to get a guy, was Chandler Jones.
Okay.
So, I mean, you talked about the pressure of being a first-round quarterback. If you're talking about the New England Patriots, you're talking about the pressure of being a first-round quarterback and being the pressure of the guy who takes Tom Brady's spot. Like that's an insane amount of pressure to be putting on any sort of guy fresh out of college at this point. So I think it's almost like they've created themselves a situation where you don't want to put that on any guy. Like, not only are you a first round quarterback and all of everything that means and everything that comes with that, but you're a first round quarterback who's taking the place of the greatest guy who ever played the position ever.
Valid point.
Welcome to the NFL. Come on down.
I totally think that's the case if they trade up for like a Tua or a Jordan Love, which again, I don't think they're going to do. But yeah, that's another factor, is the pressure of replacing Tom Brady, and then the demoralization to Jared Stidham, really, if you draft a first round pick quarterback too. At the end of the day, I do think they draft a quarterback rounds 3 through 5, something like that, somewhere in that range, just because I do think that Stidham needs some sort of competition, because Hoyer's not competition. He's insurance, like Ted said.
Right. It is interesting.
There is talk that they may start Hoyer. Like, and this is the worst of all scenarios. Like,
I don't think it's going to happen, but
if fine, you want to go with Stidham, have at it. Do I
Right.
believe that's going to work? No, I don't. I don't think Jared Stidham is the next guy, based on nothing other than my gut tells me Jared Stidham isn't the next guy. But Brian Hoyer, I mean, what are we doing? If you're starting Brian Hoyer, then that to me, you think drafting a first round quarterback is a sign that they didn't have a plan? Starting Brian Hoyer is the biggest sign ever that they had no plan. They're like,
Well, because
I
he was
don't know.
released. He was released 3 weeks ago. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, we'll bring him back. So,
All right, well, there's a guy that it's like getting your computer with the software already loaded. There's a guy who already knows the playbook. I guess, whatever. Yeah, come on over here. It's fine. I would much rather them go get one of the so-called broken quarterbacks, these Jameis Winston types that, haven't worked out on their first team. Bring one of them in, give them to shut up, birds.
What the hell is that?
That's a parakeet back there.
Oh God, birds are fun, huh? Jesus.
Yeah. Apparently he either very much agrees with me or very much doesn't. I'm not sure. I don't speak parakeet. But like you're telling me that I don't know, we'll just use Jameis Winston as an example. A guy that
Mr. LASIK. Yeah.
Yeah. You telling me you can't bring him in and give him Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels and get a better version than Tampa got of him? And Tampa, yes, 30 interceptions, also 30 touchdowns. Like he was more than just serviceable at times. And he had this big, fat, huge fatal flaw. But you telling me he can't do better in this system?
Let me ask you guys this question, though, because to me, this is interesting in and of itself. So when you're looking at like quarterbacks to maybe, pluck out of the old DVD, pile that are on sale, like Jameis Winston or Cam Newton, what do you think the type of quarterback it is that Bill is looking for? Like, do we know what type of quarterback Bill Belichick wants? Is it the immobile, timing, throw from the pocket, no more, just more about, distributing the ball than it is making plays? Or do you think he wants to transition out of that and go to a guy that's got more ability to run, that you can be more creative? Because I don't necessarily know exactly what it is that Bill wants in his quarterback. And if you just want to go based off of, prior history, you go, okay, you want the guy that's just the ball comes out fast, who can run it efficiently, that doesn't maybe have to be the most athletic guy, but has to be able to run a 2-minute drill and throw with accuracy and make good decisions, that kind of guy.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if Josh McDaniels is going to be a factor, a major factor in this too, in terms of he seems to prefer the mobile type quarterbacks. Tim Tebow, and not the best example, but he's definitely a mobile quarterback.
He did like Baker Mayfield too, Tucker.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield, he's mobile. So I think it wouldn't shock me if Belichick just wanted to go a little bit new school and kind of get the statue out of the backfield and maybe hand over some of the quarterback development duties to Josh McDaniels and maybe run the option once in a while and kind of a new school feel to the NFL that we've seen over the past couple of years. So that wouldn't shock me either. Yeah.
For me, I think it's less about the kind of, quarterback that he is in terms of running, passing, what have you, as much as how, the decision making. He wants a guy who can make a quick decision, but have it be a good decision, right?
Go through his reads quickly.
If you're going to run, but it's got to be the right decision. And this maybe is why Jameis Winston isn't here. Obviously, 30 interceptions, that's a guy who's not making good decisions, right? So if decision making to me is probably, and this, we're told is what made Tom Brady so great, right? It wasn't pure ability. He had that, but that wasn't always what it was about. It was an ability to find the right receiver and make the smart throw. And if it's not there, I'm not going to force it and make mistakes. I'll throw it away. I'll do whatever, but I can make a quick decision and have it be a good decision and avoid making the real big mistake. And so I think if you're looking at a skill set, I think it's more about that, the mental aspect, if you will, than it is any sort of physical type of player that he would be looking for.
Yeah, I mean, and you bring up Jameis Winston, throwing up 30 touchdowns. Well, look at his weapons: Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, O.J. Howard. Who else am I skipping on? Rashard Perryman later in the year. He was a monster. but to throw 30 picks with those elite wide receivers too, it's just like, come on, you don't know how to make a decision on the go. So I think the 30 touchdowns is a product of his wide receivers, I think.
And the Jameis Winston thing is fascinating when you see. I mean, we go back to that draft with what Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota 1-2 overall. A lot of people thought that was one of the best quarterback classes since Andrew Luck and RG3, but obviously both of them just failed miserably. The one problem coming out of Florida State that Jameis Winston always had, that you go, oh well, once he gets to the NFL and he gets some good coaching, they'll not get that out of him, was his penchant for turning the ball over. I just think that's who he is. I don't care who the coach is. I think it would be very difficult for him to just kind of shake that. I think that's just kind of part of his DNA. So I would be, I don't know, I would be nervous as hell to bring him in. I'd be more open to bringing Cam in over Jameis Winston. The one thing that is going against, I think, those kind of guys is the inability to have off-season workouts and not have them in the facility. Bill will dumb down the offense. He will kind of, tailor it to whoever is the quarterback. But we know that this is an advanced offense where it's a lot of teaching. And so this is valuable time that those quote-unquote bridge quarterbacks that we're discussing would have to get acclimated to this system. So I think just this, with the pandemic going on, you really, really kind of narrowed your search, I think, as far as the bridge quarterback, because of the inability to bring them in, at the normal times in the offseason.
So Aaron weighs in with this observation and question. He thinks the team will be looking for a quick release QB and wants to know who are the quick read QBs in the league or in the draft right now. I don't know if that means who are they that would be available to the Patriots or just who those guys are right now.
It's funny that I'm sorry, what was his name? Aaron. It's funny that Aaron brings that up because I was doing just some quick review of quarterbacks in the draft, and Anthony Gordon, he's probably going to be projected for 4th round, something like that. He's out of Washington State. He recorded the quickest release at the combine.
Did he?
Yeah.
Do you know who has the one thing? And I watched this film years ago that it was so, to me, jumped out at you with his face.
Jesus.
Hey, buddy. Was a quarterback out of Eastern Illinois named Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yep.
And I know it's such, if you have a compact kind of balls out fast release, then it's a very attractive quality, particularly in Bill Belichick. And obviously Tom had that. But as far as all the quarterbacks, I've watched a lot of these guys just, a little bit. I mean, it's hard to say, exactly who could be available in the middle rounds, I think, for them, that has that quality. But that's certainly quick release and accuracy and high football acumen are the three things that Bill looks for the most, I think, in quarterback. Do you know what separated Tom Brady from all the other quarterbacks? When people ask me, when did you first notice Tom Brady? The first time I noticed Tom Brady, there's one situation in football. Let's see if you guys can guess it for the offense, that if the quarterback can execute this one facet, this one situation with efficiency, it's the 2 minute. If in Tom Brady, he excelled in the 2 minute offense. And it's about good decision-making, fast decision-making, getting the ball out fast, reading the defenses in a timely manner.
Not scrambling. Yeah.
That's to me is what Bill really wants, is a quarterback that can run that situation with a high efficiency and high success. And I think he thinks the rest of it can fall in place. And that was what separated Tom, I think, initially from Drew, was how well he ran the 2 minute offense.
So we only have a couple minutes left. Mark in our YouTube comments makes a couple observations. The schedule is a killer. He thinks that they need to take the air out of the ball, so to speak. And he says, and I quote, "I think we're getting another fat kid at 23 and we're going ground heavy."
Hey, why not? I mean, look, I think bring that back that, James Devlin, he'll come back from injury. Sony Michel with that 21 personnel. I think they're going to definitely Marshall and Tucker. obviously lean on the running game. A lot of teams, you see the running game being a little bit more prominent now, not necessarily running backs, but running game. And the Patriots, it'll be interesting without Scarnecchia there, who's kind of been the conductor with that offensive line not being there, how efficient that running game is going to be. But you're damn right. It's going to be run. They'll probably go back to where they were in 2018, which was a top 3 running team in the NFL. They had, I think, the 3rd most rushing attempts in the NFL, even as Tom Brady as your quarterback. So I definitely see them being a very much a run-heavy football team than passing team.
Yeah, and part of me wonders if that's one of the reasons why they franchised Joe Thuney, was to solidify that offensive line to go run heavy like we've seen over the past couple of years. But I still wouldn't rule out trade with Joe Thuney just because they're so up against it with the cap. They only have like $1 million left in space, so they need something to work there. But over the past couple of years, yeah, you've seen the Patriots shift to try and be a running team, I think, to help Tom Brady out. And looking at the running back situation for the Patriots aside, I think it wouldn't shock me if they drafted another running back in this draft either. I mean, James White's contract is coming up in a couple of years. Rex Burkhead, he's probably a cut candidate, to be honest. Sony Michel, he's not been getting it done. And Damian Harris, we still don't know. He was pretty much redshirted last year. He's an unknown. So it wouldn't shock me if they drafted another running back here and, solidified that run game, because right now they need help there. Sony Michel doesn't look like the guy.
Tucker, obviously you co-host the fantasy show, which I assume will come back at some point. I feel like the Patriots are not going to be a team that's going to be interesting to anyone who plays fantasy football. Is there a player on this team that you would be looking at as any sort of impact fantasy player at this point?
I could see N'Keal Harry, I think, was just a product of bad luck last year. When he touched the ball, we saw what his first round hype was. We saw flash, we saw physicality, but obviously he just couldn't stay healthy. And he came back, week 10 or whatever it was. So we lost trust, or never really had trust, with Tom Brady. We all know how Brady is with wide receivers. We all know his history there. And we heard it in the Howard Stern interview, how, he just said he wasn't going to throw to those guys he didn't trust. And I think N'Keal Harry was one of those guys. But, with a new, just spill some of my beer, with a new quarterback, Stidham is going to be, hucking it to him, I feel like. So if you can get N'Keal Harry in the later rounds, I think he's a solid sleeper for people. I'm pretty high on N'Keal Harry still. It was a solid wide receiver class out of the draft last year, and it's probably a stronger wide receiver class this year. So look for the Patriots to make a splash on a wide receiver too, probably in the middle rounds as well, just because it's so deep, this wide receiver class. But Edelman, we know where he is in terms of fantasy. So, and you wonder about the connection there with, Edelman and Stidham. It's, the inexperience there. So, yeah, in terms of fantasy, it's like James White, N'Keal Harry, and that's pretty much it.
I played some fantasy football with my son and a lot of his friends and their dads. And the only thing I got right was I selected the Patriots defense last year.
Yeah, elite.
I don't know. You don't get a lot of points for defenses, but
they did.
They did. I was going to say that they did just fine.
Yeah. So that might be a way to go. Go Patriots defense if you get a chance. Look, they're not going to be as good. Obviously, they can't sustain what they did in those first 9 games, but I still tend to think that's going to be a solid unit right there on that side.
All right, boys, we're just about out of time here, or I guess we are out of time because we have to get out of the way. I think it's Tim McCone, Sean Silver, and Mason Souza are going to take over this. So for the folks watching on the YouTube channel, it takes a couple minutes to basically get us the hell out of here and cancel everything and start anew. So I'm going to be the one doing that in a second. Boys, I plan to keep doing this every weekend. So cool. You're both going to hear from me. And as I cobble together a schedule for next weekend, I don't think anyone else has anything else to do, honestly. So
I'm open.
Let's do it, man. I'll be around. Let's do it again next week if you want.
Yeah.
Boys.
All right, guys, it's the Weekenders YouTube channel, so you can subscribe and like the videos. And, I'll watch for us on Twitter, and we'll tell you who's coming up next. But hanging out in a couple minutes, it'll be those 3 guys right here. Gentlemen, Tucker, go, I don't know, mow the lawn or rake the lawn. Ted, go do a workout.
I'm gonna go for
I've
a
got to get
stroll.
the smelly dog out of here and maybe air her out outside a little bit. We'll talk to you guys later.
All right.